Hey guys, what is going on? In this video, I'm going to show you how to fully automate your SMMA or marketing agency in 2025. Now, if you're new to this channel, we've worked with over 200 marketing agency owners over the past 9 to 12 months, where at least 27% of them will scale to the 6-figure run rate within 90 to 120 days of joining our incubator. Now, I've personally scaled over 4 agencies myself, some to 6 figures, some to 7 figures. Now, in today's training, I'm going to break down exactly how I was able to scale an agency to 40 to 50K per month while only working 3 hours per day in 21 and 22 and 2023 also. Now, the best part about this is I was able to travel to places like Rome, Dubai, Scotland, London, while the agency worked for me, while I had team and systems in place that allowed me to actually enjoy myself and not work in the business, but only really tinker on the business even while I was on holiday. So this is going to be super valuable for you if you're looking to find a pathway to fully automate your agency, you're looking to find a pathway to potentially sell your agency, or maybe you're just kind of starting out and you're wondering, how do I hire and train and build in my first team members and systems so I'm not working and doing basically everything in the business? So with that in mind, let's jump into the content. We're going to break this training up into 3 sections. So we're going to have the team and systems section. We're then going to have the sales system, and then we're going to have service delivery. Okay. Now, we're going to start with team and systems. So the key with team and systems is you've got to understand if your goal, and this is with anything really, you want to understand what you're trying to achieve. So if your goal is 30,000 per month, that will change the way that you approach the way you build your business. If your goal is only $10,000, that will change the way you build your business as well. Like if you're looking to hit $10,000 per month, you wouldn't hire a $10,000 per month team because you'd have 0 profit. So you want to think clearly about what your goal is. Now, we get a lot of people on calls will say sky's the limit, but sky's the limit is not a plan. You need to have an idea of what it is you want to make out of your agency, and then that will dictate how you kind of construct the team and systems in your business. So with that in mind, let's go through the key systems and team that you'll need. So let's just say your goal hypothetically is to get to 50K per month. So to get to 50K per month, this is the type of setup that you need. Number 1 is you need to have a virtual assistant. Now, this is probably the first hire that you're going to make. Now, the virtual assistant will do a lot of things. They can do graphic design, social posting, they can run ads on Ads Manager. They're basically button pushers, okay? So button pushers. Now, if you have a really good virtual assistant, they can actually talk to clients, they can set up automations and things like that. But the first thing that you want to do is you want to delegate all of the button pushing that you're doing in your business. Here's the fact. One of the most important commodities in your business is actually your time. Your time is far more valuable than your money. So money you can easily get more of. Time you cannot easily get more of. So your time is actually infinitely more valuable. So what you want to immediately try and do is outsource the tasks that you can, outsource to somebody for $5 or $3 per hour. Okay, so the first team member you want to get is a virtual assistant. Now, in addition to that as well, this is the kind of the structure that you want to take. The next member of the business you want to get is a client success manager. Now, this highly depends on the type of niche that you're in, how specialized it is. But ultimately, if you're bogged down talking to clients all day and you don't have the ability to actually do and drive more revenue, you're going to get bottlenecked doing hundreds of client calls. So it's important that you get a CSM in place. Now, it's not hard and fast. I would definitely say getting a virtual assistant as the first hire is a hard and fast rule, but getting a client success manager is probably the most, the thing I'd do next. Or if not a client success manager, I'd get a closer. I'd get one or the other. I would be leaning towards getting a CSM because generating new sales is extremely important in your business. But then again, if you run a more retention heavy or versus a sales heavy business, then you want to be the CSM. But I've seen people get stuck in fulfillment the whole time and they're not able to actually spend time growing their business. So I would probably recommend getting a CSM. Now after that, I would get a setter. So this is somebody who actually calls your leads, sets appointments, gets them on the calendar. This is critical because if you don't have appointments on your calendar, you're not going to be able to grow. Now, a really important concept that I learned from a program with Joel Kaplan was SACA, set appointments, close appointments. When you're under 10K per month or even under kind of like 20, 30K, you do want to focus on retention, but at the same time, the more clients that you can take on, the better your process is going to get because you're going to get more live case studies of what is actually working right now. There's a huge difference between, a theory that you learned 10, 20 years ago versus what is actually working right now in the business. So it's important that you get as many case studies as you can. And the only way you're going to do that is to set and close appointments. Now, if you guys struggle with setting appointments, I'm giving away our appointment setting script. You will not have got this script anywhere else. I literally came up with this script after taking thousands, if not tens of thousands of appointment setting calls. It's very simple. There's a very structured process to it. And if you literally follow the script step by step and you execute it well, it's very hard not to book calls. In other words, if you use this script, you will book hundreds of calls. If you're interested in getting the appointment setting script, comment setter below and we'll send it out to you. Okay, so once you've hired your appointment setter and you're getting a consistent appointments coming through, the next hire you want to make ideally would be a closer. Okay, so a closer. I would probably say the CSM first, then I would hire a closer. Now, what you've got to understand is with your team, you're basically replacing yourself fully with this team. So the virtual assistant does all the button pushing, the CSM does all the client meetings, the setter does all the appointment setting, the closer closes the deals, and then the last person I would possibly get would be a media buyer. Now, I wouldn't get this many team members, which is 5 team members, until you're kind of at the 100K or above 60K per month mark, 'cause it's just too many. I'd also say that you could possibly get 2 to 3 virtual assistants doing different things like video editing and whatnot. So this is kind of the perfect team structure. If it's structured well, that'll enable you to get 60 to 70% margins at 100K per month, depending on how heavy your ad spend is. So ad spend is a big factor. You ideally want to keep your contractor expenses below 20% or around 20 to 30%, at max 30%, because that will give you enough margin to grow. That was a lesson I learned from Alex Hormozy, where basically he says you want to keep your cost of goods or cost of service delivery at or around 20%. Otherwise, you're not going to have enough margin in your profit margin to actually grow the company. Okay, so that is the team structure. Now, what you got to understand is you can't just have all these team members and then leave them to do their own thing. What you got to understand is that when you get staff, you become a manager. Okay, so you become the person who manages your team. You don't become a business owner and just tell your staff to do stuff and then not check in with them. So it's very important that you take on the manager role seriously and you do it consistently. Now, what you've got to understand is that when you're hiring people, you're trading out basically, for instance, let's just say a closer. What you're doing when you hire a closer, so when you hire a closer, you're trading taking 8 calls per day. Okay, so instead of you taking 8 calls per day, you're trading that for 1 sales meeting per day. Okay, so instead of you doing 8 hours of sales calls every day, what you're doing, I'm just going to make it a bit smaller so it fits on the screen. Instead of doing 8 calls per day, spending 8 hours, what you're doing instead is you're spending 45 minutes. So basically, instead of you spending 8 hours, you're only spending 45 minutes to duplicate yourself across the business. Now, I'll say this again because this is a really important concept. By hiring good people, you're duplicating yourself multiple times so that you can take on more volume. Now, the only way to grow a company and generate more volume, generate more revenue, is to take on more volume and to duplicate yourself. Now, the nuts and bolts of this process is this. What you're doing by trading out, doing sales calls, you're giving yourself back 7 hours and 15 minutes, and you're instead only spending 45 minutes training your closer every day. Now, where I see people making a big mistake is they don't delegate properly. So they kind of, they'll take sales calls and they'll kind of micromanage. But what you want to do instead is have a really clean and clear process for when you take on stuff. So the way that you deal with that is you have a process that you follow. Okay, so there has to be a process that you follow to actually get the result that you're after. The next thing is you need to have a meeting cadence. So you need to have a structured approach to how often you meet your staff, because if you don't, trust me, things are going to go to SHIT. You need to have a proper meeting cadence so that you can make sure that the quality control is there. Because if you just leave a closer and get him to do his own thing for weeks on end, you're going to drop your close rate. Okay. The next thing is, once you got a process, meeting cadence, is you need to have clear expectations. Okay. So you need to make sure that you clearly communicate what it is your staff member is responsible for, what outcomes you're wanting from them, and how you want them to go about doing the task. So what are they responsible? So let's do a really simple example. Say you're a garbage man. Your job, your outcome is to make sure that every bin is emptied into the garbage truck. So the whole street is clear of bins with rubbish. That is the goal. Now, your responsibility is you do it on time. So you need to do it before, say, 8 a.m. in the morning. You need to make sure that you do every bin, and the bins are at least 95% empty, because there's going to be some bins you can't fully empty. So not only do you have the outcome, but you need to explain the criteria of the outcome. And then in addition to that too, the way you want to do it is you want to do it without breaking any equipment. You want to do it without, tossing the bins everywhere on the street. You want to put the bins away carefully. So that's a really good example of how you need to explain to your staff what you need to do. Your goal as a closer is to get more deals. Now, you need to do that without lying. You need to do that without such and such. Now, at the same time, the way I want it done is you need to be 5 minutes early. This is our no-show process, etc., etc. So you really want to make sure that with your expectations, you communicate what the outcome is. You communicate how they do it. So how they do it, and then also the extra kind of responsibilities within that. Okay, so that is the things that you need to consider when you're hiring a team. You need to know how to do those things, otherwise your team won't work and you'll be stressing the whole time. So the more that you can systemize and structure the process, the better. Okay, now we're going to go into the systems. Now, the way that I like to think about systems is they're literally just recipes. So let's just say that you bake an amazing chocolate cake. Now, the smart thing to do is to write down exactly how you bake that chocolate cake. Now, why would you want to do that? Is so you can replicate the same outcome again and again and again. If you're guessing every time, then you're going to struggle to actually create a consistent result for your clients, right? If you have to bake the cake from scratch every time, sure, over time you start to get a handle of by feel how you put the cake together. But if you're handing it over to staff, they need to have a recipe to follow. So you got to make sure that you don't hire staff without having a clear recipe. Now, the recipe in this instance is your systems, okay? So a system is basically, in other words, a process, or like I said, a recipe. So you want to have a system for how you onboard clients. You want a system for how you launch ads. Okay, you want a system for how you close deals. Now, what I will say is that what a lot of people do is they think, if I record a loom for all of these things and send them to my staff, it'll be good enough. I don't think that the best way to build a system is to do that. This is what I think is the best way to build a system. So number one, what you want to do is have a meeting with the key staff member. Now, what you want to do on that meeting is take them through the process. So take them through the process and at the same time record the meeting. Okay? So the reason that you want to record the meeting is so they can review that process later. Now, the reason I like to do this is because they've seen the process. What I've found that in the past is that if I put everything into a loom, if you guys don't know what a loom is, it's like a little app that you can get on your computer where you can record a screen recording of your computer. I've found that if I record a loom, people don't watch it. So I literally sit down with them and I take them through the process step by step, and I give them that recorded process of me showing them live. So not only do I show them live, they can actually view that recording again and again and again. What I also like to do is convert that into a step-by-step process that is written down in black and white on a Google Doc, so they know step-by-step how to do this. Now, what that typically looks like is step one. Okay, so this is really good stuff, guys. Step one is I'll get on a meeting with them. Okay. Step two is I'll record it. Then step three is I'll put the video onto a Google Doc. And then step four is I will turn that meeting into a transcript, which you can do with Loom. So actually I do, like the way I do the recording is I do use Loom or OBS. If you guys want a proven process of how to actually record and document your processes for max effectiveness, comment system below in the YouTube comments, and I'll actually send you our full document system of how to actually do this. Okay, so step one, meeting. Step two, record. Step three, Google Doc, and then put the transcript on the Google Doc. So what you do is you name the Google Doc appropriately, and then you send them the link. Make sure the link is shareable on Google Doc, and then say, this is the process. I've shown you how it works. Does it make sense? Answer any questions. So one thing that you want to do with staff as well is over explain. I've found that if you really explain things like and you can make a joke out of it, like say it, hey dude, like I'm gonna say this like 4 times because doing this really matters and I don't want you to forget. Please do this. Please do this. I'll like literally repeat it. Sounds like a bit of an asshole, but the thing is, if you use a bit of humor and you just repeat it, then they will get it straight away. If you say, I'll guarantee you this, if you tell them, I want you to do something as a passing comment, and you don't actually highlight the fact that this is a really important thing to remember, 99% of the time, they're going to forget it. So you want to make sure that if there's an important part of the process that they need to do, you want to highlight that fact. Otherwise, they're going to struggle and they're not going to do things properly. Okay, so that is the how to actually put a system together. Now, system sounds kind of fancy, but all it is really is a system is just a written down checklist of how to do a thing the same way every single time. So some examples of a system could be how to, like I said before, how to onboard a client, how to create a sub account in GHL, how to launch a Facebook ad, how to set up a Zap, etc., etc., etc. Now, over time, your staff should know this instinctively. They don't need to refer back to the processes every single time. But you want to basically document as much of this as you can, so when you have a new staff member, you can kind of take them through how these processes work. Okay, now if you implement those things, so guys, the team structure and the system, you will have a machine that enables you to run your business effectively. Now, we're going to go into the juicy part, which is the sales system. Okay, sales system. Basically, a really easy way to think about the sales system, is you have inputs and then you've got outputs. Now, this is super, super critical, and this is going to be a game changer if you struggle with sales, if you struggle with getting enough appointments. Getting appointments is actually really simple. What you need to understand is how many inputs you need to do of a certain thing to get just one output. I'll give you an example. Let's say you've got ad spend. If you need to spend $50 to get one appointment, okay, then you have certainty that you're going to get an appointment every day as long as you spend $50. Does that make sense? You got your input and your output. So really, 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 really simple. Input, output. So $50 ad spend equals one appointment. Now, the next thing is, let's just say you do cold email. If it takes you 500 cold emails to get 3 leads, then, we want to do it. Basically, the way you want to do it is you want to figure out how many inputs does it take to get one output. So if it takes 150 emails to get one lead, and then let's just say you do cold calls, okay? You do 50 cold calls to get one appointment. You basically need to make sure that your team does this every single day. And that is your sales system, okay? You need to understand with your sales system, what are the inputs? Dude, this is such a fire training. I wish I got this when I was starting out. It's actually this simple: inputs and outputs. Now you're probably thinking, okay, that makes sense, but how can I get one lead every 150 cold emails? How can I get one appointment for every 50 cold calls? How can I get one appointment for every $50 in ad spend? So then what you've got to do is look at the qualitative factors, which another word is just the substance or the pieces of the puzzle. Like, what are the pieces of the puzzle? So with the ad spend, for me to get $50 per appointment, I need to have a good offer. I need to have a good creative. I need to have a good capture mechanism or funnel, right? So you need to look at what is the criteria to actually hit these goals, okay? Now, remember, if you guys want more help on cold email and cold calls, there'll be other videos on the channel that you can check out. We're not going to deep dive into that because I want to give you the overview for fully automating your agency. So let's just say you've got the sales system now. The next thing is you just need to, what's the word? You need to maintain it. Okay, so it's maintenance. So what are we maintaining? We're maintaining 2 things. We're making sure that the staff member actually executes on the inputs, right? So we need to make sure that the staff is doing the 50 calls. They're doing the 50 emails or whatever the case may be. Now, the next thing we're doing maintenance on is the quality. So are the outputs staying the same? Okay. What that means is, if we send 150 emails, do we still get one lead, or does it take now 300 emails? Now, the way that you do this, so I'll just quickly finish this. Are the inputs generating the same outputs, right? Are the inputs generating the same outputs? Now, if we need to do this to run a sales system, we need to have proper tracking. So this is a big part of automating your agency is you need dashboards. You need to actually track your numbers, because if you don't track your numbers, then you're making decisions based on emotion, and you're going to have no kind of concept or grasp of where your agency actually is, right? So, just some preliminary things that you want to track could be your profit margin. You want to track your sales inputs, and you want to track your sales outputs. All right. And so that is how you actually run a really powerful sales machine. Now, in addition to that too, you remember that when we have team, the way that we manage team is through meetings. Okay. So to run a highly efficient sales team, you need to have consistent meetings. Now, I would say that over time, like when you start with a new sales rep, you want to have a meeting daily. Once that sales rep's been with you for 3 months, you can have a meeting 3 times per week. Okay. Now, it's very important to remember that you're creating leverage in your business when you get a closer. Okay. Now, the way that you create leverage is through the meetings. So the meetings allow you to download and install all of your knowledge, all of your experience, and all of your feedback into that closer, so they become stronger and stronger and stronger. I see so many agency owners neglecting their closers and going, blaming the lead generator or blaming somebody else. But the fact is, you have to put into your closer, you have to nurture your team. Why would they stay with you if you A, treat them badly, and B, don't nurture them? So you need to make sure, and you really grasp this concept, that meetings equal leverage. Meetings equal leverage. It's leveraging your skill set, your ability, your experience, your experience as a closer to actually make sure that your team is performing. And so that's how you basically create a really powerful sales system. Is you have your inputs and outputs, and then to maintain the performance, you need to have meetings. Okay. And then to make sure that this whole system is working, just going to move this a little bit so you guys can see it. So inputs, outputs, and then to make sure this whole system is working, you need to make sure that you're tracking it. If you're not tracking it, you're not going to know where things are at. All right, guys. So we are working through this well. So at this point, if you guys have any questions, please comment below in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the sales system and things like that. Now, the next thing we're going to go through is delivery. Okay. So delivery is really critical, and it's actually pretty simple. Okay. So delivery, you can break up into 2 sections. You have communication, right? And then you have results. Now, these are both as important as each other. If you have really poor communication, for instance, you don't tell your client when the ad goes live and all these leads come through, you didn't inform them, they didn't get to call them on time, then they feel like they've wasted ad spend. It doesn't matter if you got them a really good result, they're going to be mad at you. So it's very important that you have some really good communication principles in place. I use this. You want to have one channel that you guys agree to, i.e. Slack. The second thing is you want to have a regular meeting once per week, or even at the start, twice a week, something like that, just to make sure that you're in alignment. And then any major changes, you notify them. Oh, also, sorry, the other thing too is you have a daily update. Now, basically the way you do this is you have a voice note that you can send to your virtual assistant that they can turn into a transcription that they can then post into the Slack chat, or you can even just voice note into the Slack chat. Yeah. Now the daily update is important because it makes you appear as though you're doing lots of work. Now, obviously you want to be doing like work for your clients, but it also makes them feel like they've got somebody on their side that's really dedicated to helping them actually grow their business. So having a daily update in the communication piece is really key. Now, results. The results are, number one is ROI, okay? So the most important thing is that you do get your clients a return on investment. Now, I would say a good return on investment is 2x to 3x within about 2 to 3 months, okay? So you got to make sure that you communicate to your clients that within the first month, it's highly unlikely they're going to be profitable. But by month two and month two and month three, they need to be seeing a good return on investment. Now, if it's a longer sales cycle like real estate, then you're going to have to rely heavy on the communication piece to let them know the results are there. But then the way that you communicate that the results are coming is you've got the downstream results, okay? So if there's not an ROI yet, they can see that there's bookings, right? And if there's not bookings yet, they can see that there's leads, okay? So it's very important that all these things are happening at once, because if they're not, then you're the one that's going to be in trouble, okay? So this is really the delivery system in a nutshell. You've got the ROI, you've got the bookings, the leads, you've got the communication with one channel, one weekly meeting and daily update. Now, here's the cool thing. You can fully delegate this process. So what you want to do is with getting the ROI, you want to have a proven, I'm just going to move this over to the side here. You want to have a proven creative, okay? Or proven creative template. So one thing to get really good results at scale for lots of clients is you want to work with one niche, okay? With one kind of offer. Because the thing is, if you work with too many different niches with too many different offers, you're not going to be able to copy paste and streamline your process. Imagine going to a car manufacturer and every single customer at a car manufacturer requested a custom car. You can't do it. Like, they can't profitably run a car manufacturing business if every customer is requesting a custom built car. It doesn't work like that. You need to have certain vehicles that you sell as an agency. So maybe you have a Facebook lead form campaign that you run for property investors, or you have a Facebook funnel that you run for solar installers, right? So one niche, one offer. Now, you want to have a proven creative template and you want to turn this into a recipe or system, okay? Now, the recipe or system can then be executed by your virtual assistant, okay? Now, what does that mean? That means that if you want to get a client campaign live, you don't have to do it yourself. You can be out on holiday in wherever, Dubai, Scotland, Bali, whatever, and someone else is doing it for you because they're following a proven recipe, okay? And now, here's where the media buyer comes in. Let's just say that the results aren't as expected. The media buyer, their job is to problem solve the results and then modify the recipe and then give that recipe to the virtual assistant, okay? So that is where the media buyer comes in. Now, where the CSM manager comes in, the client success manager, is they will take all of this, right? I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. Damn, what is going on here? They'll make all of this smaller. Sorry. They will take this, right? And they will go and communicate, take the communication piece, and they will communicate the results of what's actually happening. So on all sides of the equation, when it comes to your service delivery, and remember, there's only two sides, right? So you got results, and you've got communication. You've got the CSM, okay? They're dealing with communication, and then you've got results. You've really got the virtual assistant who's doing a copy paste process, okay? So Control C V, they're doing a copy paste process, and then the CSM. Then the last thing is the media buyer, who will problem solve the results if it doesn't work. Now, if there is a drama or there's an emergency, that's where you come in as the owner. But as the owner, you don't need to be there for every little question, okay? So all the questions get handballed to the CSM. All of the ad launches get handballed to the virtual assistant, and any trouble accounts get handballed to the media buyer. And that's how you deal with delivery. Now, this is the same exact system and structure that I used in order to scale to 50K per month and only worked 3 hours a day. It was awesome. Okay, cool. Now, we've gone through the team and system structure. We've gone through sales. We've gone through fulfillment. And so the last thing I want to talk about just quickly is personal effectiveness. Okay. So personal effectiveness is actually being able to implement all of these things. Okay. So if you're inconsistent as a leader, you won't be able to have authority over the team, because it's one thing to have a team. It's another thing to have a team that respects you, and another thing to have a team that actually does what you tell them to do. Because like, on the one hand, yes, you can pay them, but like managing a team is so much more than paying them and telling them what to do. It's about leading them. It's about encouraging them, giving them feedback. So I want to take you through some really important things that I would recommend so that you can become a really effective founder and CEO of your own agency. Number one is keep your word. So the easiest way to build respect for yourself and for others to respect you is to keep your word. Okay. So if you pay your team late, do one thing, say one thing, do another, people will lose respect for you. So the thing is that when you meet a new person, you take them at face value. And if they say, I'm going to do this, you're going to expect them to do it. And when they do it, you go, oh, wow, this guy, he did it. But if they don't do it, you think, oh, why didn't he do it? He said he would do it, but he didn't do it. Like, it doesn't make sense. So the first thing is make sure that you keep your word. Second thing is you need to be organized. So having a team and every day is sort of like running it's like running an event every day. So every day you need to have an idea of what your team is actually doing, and you need to allocate their time in the most resourceful way. Okay. Because ultimately, if you're not organized and things are all over the place, your team is going to feel frustrated, like they're wasting time. Because if you have a good team, they want to feel like they're doing well. And if they don't feel like they're doing well because you're disorganized, they're going to lose respect for you. So you want to make sure that you're organized. Number 3 is you want to be consistent. Okay. So you don't want to be somebody who's like doing one thing and then suddenly changing, and there's no kind of stability. So you want to make sure that you're very consistent and stable, because that will provide a environment for your team to latch onto. And one of the most important things with team, which is a really key factor, is that the longer you can keep them, right? So this is like a clock. The longer that you can keep them, the more effective they become, okay? Usually, because they learn, there's like a point where if they stay for like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, so let's just say this is month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, their effectiveness is going to massively increase by month 4, because they're going to have the training, the experience, and they're actually going to be able to absorb every part of the business so they can execute well. If you're constantly having to switch out staff, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Now, everyone has, if you've ever read like a management book, they always talk about, if you lose staff, it costs you thousands. If you have a good closer that is closing, 10, 20 grand a week for you, and then they suddenly become sick and you've got no closer, your business drops like that. So maintaining and retaining really good staff is one of the most important key. Imagine this. Imagine if Jeff Bezos left Amazon. That whole business would suffer dramatically. Billions of dollars of losses, okay? So by having key people in place, having a plan to keep them, and having these kind of criteria that you follow, keep your word, stay organized, be consistent, you're going to be able to manage a really good team. All right, guys, that is the fully automate your agency masterclass over. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.